In the mid-3rd century AD, 7 young men went to sleep in a cave somewhere in Turkey and didn't wake up for approximately 2 centuries. These were early Christians who hid in a cave in order to avoid persecution by Roman emperors. The story sounds far-fetched, but it was retold across the Middle Ages in many different cultures. Join me as we explore their story. The story of the 7 sleepers must be viewed against the backdrop of the late Roman Empire. After Jesus' death, his apostles and other followers began preaching across the eastern Mediterranean, even bringing news of the new church to the city of Rome itself. It used to be believed that the Christians were widely persecuted from the inception of their movement, but the reality is that, other than a brief period of persecution during the reign of Emperor Nero in the 60s AD, they were largely left alone by the authorities. As a result, they grew to be a small but significant church, based largely in the eastern Mediterranean. It was only from the mid-3rd century AD that persecution of them became more common, as the early Christian church grew and its activities became more aggressive in tandem. This was also a period of rapid changeover of Roman emperors as civil wars racked the empire. One such emperor was Decius, who became ruler in 249 AD. The following year, he issued a decree which commanded all citizens of the empire to make sacrifices to the Roman gods in honor of his new reign. These were to be carried out in front of Roman magistrates. However, for Christians who rejected the Roman gods, this was unacceptable, and many refused the command. Consequently, many thousands of Christians across the empire were arrested and executed. The 7 sleepers were Christians who were believed to have been living at the time of the Decian persecution at Ephesus, on the coast of Ionia, in what is now the town of Selçuk in western Turkey. There are a great many different accounts of the legend surrounding them, and most suggest there were around 7 of them. One account even suggests there were 9 sleepers and a dog. Moreover, a wider variety of names for the individuals are given in different accounts. Virtually nothing is known about their lives prior to the events of the early 250s AD. Whatever the actual number of sleepers or their names, the basic story is fairly well established. It holds that they were Christians who, during the persecution of their religion by the Emperor Decius, refused to make the sacrifices to the Roman gods which had been commanded by the emperor. Instead, they are believed to have distributed their possessions among the poor of Ephesus and went to hide in a nearby cave and began praying. Yet, they all suddenly became very tired and fell asleep. Meanwhile, the authorities soon learned where they had gone and decided that, rather than removing them forcefully from the cave and trying to make them repent for their refusal to honor the Roman gods, they would instead block the mouth of the cave and let them starve to death within. A year later, Decius was overthrown. Many other emperors came and went in the years that followed. One would have imagined that the Christians in the cave were long dead, and their skeletal remains being all that lay there by the time the Emperor Constantine adopted Christianity and made it the state religion of the empire in 313 AD. However, at some stage over 100 years after that, the exact date is unclear, the mouth of the cave was cleared by a local farmer, who was looking to use it as a pen for his cattle. The man was amazed to find inside 7 individuals who seemed asleep. The 7 awoke and claimed that they felt as though they had only been asleep for a day, whereas in reality, upwards of 200 years had passed. Now awake, the men felt an intense hunger, and so one member of the group made his way to Ephesus to purchase food. While en route, the man was extremely cautious, staying out of sight to not get caught. After all, in his mind only a day had passed, and if he was spotted, he would be captured and executed. Nevertheless, when he arrived to the city, he noticed something which shocked him. He passed by various buildings, realizing many had crosses attached to them. Was his mind playing tricks on him? Then, the man tried to buy food, but the vendor was taken back when he saw him trying to spend old coins from the reign of Decius. Word of this quickly got out, and although the man was initially cautious, he could tell something had changed. As previously mentioned, Christianity was now the official religion of the Roman Empire, and so a bishop was summoned to interview the man. He told him his story and how the previous night they had fled from Decius's persecution. After speaking for a while, the bishop accompanied the man to the cave where they met up with the 6 others. Following this, the sleepers had a discussion surrounding the resurrection of Christ, and they died after a time while praising God. Some accounts even suggest that they met the Roman Emperor Theodosius I before their passing. Apparently, he wanted to build golden tombs for them, but they then appeared in a dream, asking to be buried in the cave. Again, accounts regarding this legend vary. Some suggest they were risen from their long slumber around the late 440s, but others suggest a longer time, perhaps arising in the mid-6th century, and a slumber of more than 300 years. Many versions of the legend of the 7 sleepers emerged in the world of the Eastern Mediterranean in the late 5th and early 6th centuries AD. The earliest account of the legend dates to a Syrian manuscript of the late 5th century. One of the earliest ones that can be dated is found in the De Situ Terra Sanctae, a report on the geographical location of the religious sites associated with Jesus in the Holy Land. This was believed to have been written by a German archdeacon named Theodosius, and internal evidence indicates a date of composition in the 520s AD. This highlights the legend and records that a church had been erected in Ephesus in honour of the sleepers. By this time, the legend had spread amongst Christian communities widely in the Middle East. The Christians of the Najran in southwestern Arabia had their own version of it in which the sleepers numbered just 3, who were brothers. A version of it from the Syrian region usually states that there were 8 sleepers, and another mysterious watcher figure that looked over them during their vast slumber. One of the most unusual accounts of the legend was that which was produced by Gregory of Tours, who became bishop of the French region of Tours in the late 6th century. Gregory, who was a major scholar of the early Middle Ages, wrote about the legend in his work De Gloria Martyrum, meaning glory of the martyrs, and claimed to have received information about it from a Syrian or Greek-speaking traveller from the Eastern Mediterranean. What is most unusual about the legend of the 7 sleepers is that it did not remain an exclusively Christian legend. In the melting pot of religious belief that was the Arabian Peninsula during the 6th and early 7th centuries AD, it managed to find its way into Islamic religious beliefs as well, and it is mentioned in the 18th chapter of the Quran. In Islamic tradition, the 7 sleepers are more often referred to as the companions of the cave. This is again because, in Arab tradition, the precise number of the sleepers is not clear, and no number is given in the Quran. Moreover, the duration of their vast period of sleep differs here, with Islamic tradition holding that the companions were in the cave for either 300 or 309 years. The discrepancy is generally believed to have been owing to differing calculations according to either the lunar year or solar year. The Quran also states the idea that there was a watcher who looked over the companions and a dog in the cave, but it combines the two, making the watcher a dog. Because the legend entered quickly into Islamic religious writings, it spread even further. Beginning in the 630s AD, the Arab followers of Muhammad began a series of astonishing conquests, which extended the new religion outwards from Arabia, throughout the Middle East, most of Transoxiana, Turkey, North Africa, and even parts of southern Europe, such as Sicily and Spain. As a result, the legend was now wholly preserved across numerous cultures, in Europe, in the Christian communities of the Eastern Mediterranean, and in the Islamic world. The most famous version of the legend was not produced until several centuries after the Arab conquests. This was by Jacobus de Voragine, an Italian chronicler of the 13th century, who served as Archbishop of the northern city of Genoa for a time. Between the late 1250s and the mid-1260s, he compiled a work which he entitled Legenda Sanctorum, or Legenda Aurea, meaning the Golden Legend, or Legends of the Saints. In this, he included the story of the Seven Sleepers. De Voragine's version of the legend introduced a greater degree of certainty than some others. In it, he concretely stated that the sleepers had been roused from their slumber in 432 AD, during the reign of the Emperor Theodosius II. Mind you, De Voragine was otherwise drawing on highly conflicting sources, a fact he acknowledged himself towards the end of his account. The Golden Legend went on to become one of the most popular and widely read books of the late Middle Ages in Western and Central Europe. Over 1,000 original manuscript versions of it have been identified, an enormous level of survival for a book produced in the age prior to the print revolution of the 15th century. Thus he, more than any other individual, must be credited with popularizing the legend of the Seven Sleepers. There is considerable debate today as to where the cave of the Seven Sleepers might have been located. One would have thought that since the Seven Sleepers were believed to have been from Ephesus in western Turkey, and since they entered a cave near the town, that the cave would be identified as being here. But such are the number of versions of the legend and the traditions it is associated with, that there are a whole host of different caves across Turkey and the Middle East which have been identified as the mystical place where they slept. A popular site, which would make sense geographically, is a cave on Mount Pion near Ephesus. This was evidently used as a Christian cemetery in late antiquity, and there are inscriptions dedicated to the Seven Sleepers on the walls thereof, but whether these can be said to indicate the authenticity of the cave or not is highly debatable. Another cave near Afshin in Tarsus in southern Turkey has also been put forward. This is believed to have been visited by the Emperor Justinian in the early 6th century as a religious site. The most famous, though, is a site at Al-Rajib, east of Amman in Jordan. Today, the site is surrounded by 2 mosques and a Byzantine cemetery. As such, it is indicative of how the legend of the Seven Sleepers came to be prominent within not just Christian fable, but that of the early history of Islam as well. Thank you everyone for watching this video on the Seven Sleepers. I hope you found it interesting. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments, and if you want content similar to this, also let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's all from me, so I'll see all of you in the next Forgotten Life. Thanks.